Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can, though Sony will not let him go back to his Marvel friends because they are Sony. And now, after that horrible remixed rendition of the Spider-Man theme, it is the beginning of summer blockbuster season once again, and we are kicking off this summer with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the sequel to 2012's The Amazing Spider-Man, which if you saw my 2014 re-review of it, I thought it was okay. In this movie, Peter Parker, played again by Andrew Garfield, is given a new suit and some new enemies to fight. He is continuing on this journey to find the truth about what exactly happened to his parents, why they disappeared, what went down, all the stuff that they just kind of abandoned in the last movie. As this is going on, Peter's old friend, Harry Osborn, played by Dane DeHaan from Chronicle, is back in New York, and turns out he has the same disease that his father, Norman Osborn, played by Chris Cooper, had in the first Spider-Man movie. The first Amazing Spider-Man movie. At the same time, there's this nerdy, lonely Oscorp employee, Max Dillon, played by Jamie Foxx, who is obsessed with Spider-Man. So obsessed with Spider-Man that it makes my Godzilla obsession look fucking normal. And he gets into an accident in Oscorp when he's trying to fix an electrical problem. So he falls into a pool of electric eels, and rather than killing him, it turns him into the supervillain Electro. Now, I'm sure everybody who saw the advertisements for this movie had the same worry, that they showed way too much, they kept putting out too many trailers, to the point that we might as well have just seen the movie just by the trailers. And so I finally saw the movie, and all the worries that I had in the trailer, they were realized, unfortunately, but some of them weren't. And let's start out with the stuff that I was happy did not happen in the movie, or that I was satisfied with. First of all, the Spider-Man costume. It's a lot better this time. In my eyes, it is the best live-action translation of the Spider-Man costume I've ever seen. And when Andrew Garfield has the mask on, he is Spider-Man. He's energetic, he's funny, he talks smack to all the criminals and villains. He is the Spider-Man that I remember growing up. So, I think more than Tobey Maguire, while he still did a good job in those original movies, in this movie, Andrew Garfield has proven himself to be my favorite live-action Spider-Man. The chemistry between Gwen Stacy, played again by Emma Stone, and Peter Parker are still there, and all the nervous, awkward comedy that I hated in the first movie, it's gone. It's gone, and most of the comedy comes from Spider-Man just being Spider-Man, and it is Spider-Man. As I mentioned before, it's really good. The score by Hans Zimmer and what he calls the Magnificent Six is terrific. I mean, at points it does sound like music you would find in a dance club or when walking down Universal City Walk, but it's still a fantastic score nonetheless. I mean, it's better than the last score that James Horner did, which I thought it was a good score in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, but it felt more suited for something like Guardians of the Galaxy than Spider-Man. The performances were good too. I mean, it's expected from Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, but the newcomers are also good. Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn is good. He portrays the character in a different way that James Franco did in the original trilogy, which I'd say both of them did a fine job in their portrayals of Harry Osborn. Both are different, but both I think are still good. Jamie Foxx is also good as Max Dillon. He's sympathetic at first, just kind of the guy that gets stepped on, like someone you can relate to if you are that guy that got stepped on, like I was at one time. And when he becomes Electro, they do some cool stuff with his powers, but sadly he isn't in the movie that long. I mean, like, you feel sympathy for him when he's just Max Dillon, and all he wants in life is just to have the world recognize him, and just people to know that he exists, that he matters. So when he gets his powers, like, hey, people are paying attention to him, but there's really no motivation for him to become evil. At the most, he gets pissed off that Spider-Man's becoming an attention hog. There's just really no motivation, and all the sympathy you had for that character just you could say goodbye to it. Now, moving away from the stuff that I liked into the stuff that I didn't like. For everything that I loved or thought was well done in this movie, there's an equal amount of stuff that I thought was poorly handled or just plain I hated. One of them that I hated was Paul Giamatti as this Russian mobster who later becomes the Rhino. His performance is cranked up to 11. He is so over the top, but not in an enjoyable way. It's not in a crank type over the top. The whole time when I was watching his scenes, I was thinking in my mind, what the fuck is he doing? Because, I mean, he is awful in this movie. There are points where I forgot he was supposed to be a Russian mobster, and judging from his voice, it sounded like he was mentally handicapped or something. No disrespect, but I just thought I hated that part. It was just handled very poorly. Aside from his awful performance, I didn't like what they did with him once he eventually becomes the Rhino in that really silly metal suit. I won't say what that is, but let me just say it's not going to satisfy anyone. The movie is also long and unfortunately not very well paced. There's a lot of points in the movie that drag, mainly when it comes to the drama, which most of the drama just doesn't work for me. There's also a subplot involving Gwen and Peter in this will they or won't they relationship that really, after a while, just got on my nerves. I mean, I may have said that two actors had good chemistry, but I just wish the movie did not have this stupid will they or won't they subplot, because, you know what? They should have just stayed together throughout the entire movie. I mean, normally I don't like to go to other critics, but Jeremy Jahns, in his review, made a good point of what they should have done with the Gwen-Peter relationship, that you should go see his review and find out. And obviously I mentioned the whole thing where once Electro, and of course I mentioned that when Max Dillon gets his powers and becomes Electro, all the sympathy you had for the character just flies out the window, which is really a shame because Jamie Foxx, he does a good job. It's just the character just kind of didn't go anywhere in the end. Looked cool, did cool stuff, had the power of dubstep thanks to the score, but I wish he could have been handled a little better. So the structure and the very poor pace of the film were the main issues that kept me from loving this movie and kept it from being a great movie, especially in the wake of Captain America the Winter Soldier, which I don't want to compare the two movies, but when you look at Winter Soldier, it's a more appealing movie. It appeals to a wider audience. Its themes and morals are stronger. There's more at stake. The characters are better. And having that spy element really helps bring in a larger audience, I think, because there's probably some people out there who love James Bond movies but don't like superhero movies, and, well, you get my point. This, on the other hand, is a very fun, entertaining, and except for the end, which something big happens in the end, lighthearted superhero movie. It's not the perfect Spider-Man movie that I've been hoping for since the very first day I became a Spider-Man fan, and it's most likely not going to appeal to those who didn't like the first movie or just don't have an interest in superhero movies in general. But it's harmless. It's a fun popcorn movie. I'm actually going to give it 2 ratings. For me personally, I'm going to say the movie is good, but not great. It's got some really fantastic elements, but it's also leveled out with just as many bad elements. But for other people, I'm going to say watch at your own risk. It's not a god-awful movie. It's not as bad as people are making it out to be. I mean, it's better than Spider-Man 3 still. But you should really go see this movie and judge for yourself. But if you have no desire to see this movie and want to see something on this level of big blockbustery, then luckily Captain America is still out in the theaters. Make that be the beginning of the summer blockbuster season rather than Spider-Man. But I liked The Amazing Spider-Man 2, just didn't love it. And that's my review for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Leave a comment, tell me what you thought of the movie, subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. Check out my other channel, AlexG8462. You can find links to my Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts on my YouTube page. Go check me out at letterboxd.com to see every movie that I've seen in my entire lifetime and a diary of all the movies I see every day since joining. That's letterboxd.com. I would normally promote my Patreon page, but at this point I don't have ideas yet for videos to give out to those who subscribe via Patreon, but you can still check out the Patreon video in my YouTube page. But until I come up with some ideas for Patreon videos, I'm not going to promote the Patreon page from now on. Share me with your friends and tell them about me, and remember to know it before you see it. This has been the Cinemas Mr. Robinson, and I'll see you guys later.